If you're someone who grew up in the 1990s or early 2000s, you likely have fond memories of the Marvel animated universe. Beginning in 1992 with the creation of X-Men the Animated Series, this interconnected series of animated television shows brought to life the biggest and most popular Marvel heroes imaginable and allowed for whole generations to fall in love with the company's colourful characters. From the aforementioned X-Men to Spider-Man, Iron Man, the Fantastic Four and beyond, almost every major player in Marvel's comic book universe was represented in some form, each with their own catchy theme song and show that exemplified the very best of their status quo. As someone who did grow up during this period, these shows were a huge part of my childhood, and a foundational piece of me falling in love with comics and the world of Marvel specifically. And it's because of the deep reverence I have for this universe that I've long been fascinated by the story of the failed Marvel animated series, one that was planned for many years but ultimately never brought to fruition, and would star the company's first Avenger and literal flagship hero, Captain America. Despite having several cameo appearances in the likes of Spider-Man and the Fantastic Four, plans were in place to produce a solo Captain America cartoon for much of the mid-1990s, adapting the character's then 50 years worth of comic book history into the world of animation. Unfortunately though, for many reasons, this show was never meant to be. However, in the decades since, many details have emerged regarding what it would have been like and the real reasons behind its untimely cancellation. So in this video, I want to explain the history of Marvel's failed Captain America animated series, discuss the original plans for this show and its role within the company's animated universe, and the real behind the scenes factors that led to it never seeing the light of day. Before we continue though, just a quick reminder to leave a like on this video if you enjoy it, and subscribe to Owen Likes Comics so you don't miss out on any future videos. Ever since the mid-1960s, Marvel Comics has always had a strong presence in the world of animation. During the height of the company's renaissance, as creators like Stan Lee, Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko ushered in a new wave of heroes to launch the company into superstardom, Marvel would make a deal with Grantry Lawrence Animation to produce a series of television shows that would adapt the comic book stories of their biggest heroes. As such, in 1966, a brand new series, The Marvel Superheroes, would start to air, featuring 5 of Marvel's most popular characters: Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, the Incredible Hulk, and Namor. This show's success would lead to the creation of even more cartoons based on Marvel characters, with Grantry Lawrence producing a standalone Spider-Man show the following year, whilst Hanna-Barbera would bring to life Marvel's first family, the Fantastic Four. This period, widely seen as the golden age of Marvel animation, would come to an end in the early 1970s. However, despite a brief resurgence in the late 70s and early 1980s, Marvel's triumphant return to the small screen would ultimately come in 1992, when they paired with Saban Entertainment and Fox Kids to produce X-Men the Animated Series. Now, the release of X-Men rocketed Marvel animation back to the forefront of popular culture, with several other cartoons being greenlit immediately after it became clear that this show was a success. Therefore, 2 years after X-Men's pilot episode Night of the Sentinels first aired, 2 brand new shows made their way onto Fox Kids, starring the 2 Marvel properties who had experienced the most success on television, Spider-Man and the Fantastic Four. While Marvel's animated endeavours would only continue from this point onwards, producing several more cartoons throughout the remainder of the decade, it's here where the company also began introducing other characters in featured episodes of the existing shows, with Captain America frequently appearing and fighting alongside many of these established characters. Captain America's first ever appearance in any of these shows came in September 1995, when he and the Avengers appeared in the X-Men Season 4 episode One Man's Worth Part 1. Although this episode would be our first ever sighting of the Star-Spangled Hero, it wouldn't be the Steve Rogers we'd come to know in later appearances. Instead, this version of Cap is from an alternate universe where the Avengers are servants of Apocalypse. The real Captain America would make his debut soon after though, appearing in an X-Men flashback episode where we learn that he and Wolverine worked together during World War II to stop the Red Skull. From here, Cap would make a number of appearances in Spider-Man the Animated Series, where we learn that after his mission with Wolverine, Steve continued his battles with the Red Skull, with the duo eventually being trapped in a time vortex and escaping in the present day. As such, Cap would team up with Spider-Man in the Season 5 episode The Six Fight Again, after Electro and the Chameleon, revealed to be the sons of the Red Skull, free the duo from the vortex. From here, Captain America would return in the 3-episode Secret Wars story arc, teaming with Spidey and an assortment of other Marvel heroes to face off against an all-star team of villains. As fate would have it, it would be during the production of the Secret Wars crossover that Marvel and Saban Entertainment began discussing plans to give the first Avenger his own standalone show, with the plan being to launch the cartoon in the fall of 1998. As plans began to be put in place, news quickly broke that Captain America would finally be coming to the small screen, with the world anxiously waiting for a television series that would ultimately never arrive. By 1997, Marvel had developed a strong and successful partnership with Saban Entertainment, with the production company bringing the X-Men to life with great success over the show's 5-season run. X-Men would eventually conclude in September of that same year, and as production on its final episodes began to dawn, the two companies started to discuss ideas for their next collaboration. It was quickly decided that Captain America would be this project, and soon after, Saban put together a team of storyboard artists to begin fleshing out the look and feel for this series. This team, consisting of Will Mineo, Dave Simmons and Joe Mineo, envisaged that the show would be set during World War II, fleshing out the already established story of Cap's quest to hunt down the Red Skull, while also leaving room for the hero to appear in other shows set in the present day. The trio would produce a series of storyboards outlining the show's overall tone, with Mineo also directing a short demo reel that would showcase their plans in motion. This minute-long video featured Captain America fighting German soldiers alongside his trusted sidekick Bucky, as well as allies such as Peggy Carter and Nick Fury, seemingly establishing the wider cast of characters that would be featured in this show. While this reel was being constructed, Saban began approaching writers to help bring the show's first season to life, with Michael Reeves and Steve Englehart both being hired to work on the series. While Reeves had an extensive CV in the world of animation, writing for shows such as He-Man, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Batman the Animated Series, Englehart's role in the show is perhaps more intriguing, given his role in revitalising the Captain America comics in the early 1970s. It was during this period of the cartoon's development, though, that problems began to arise behind the scenes, as two polarising creative decisions were made that would have potentially had a drastic impact on the show's reception. You see, the writers were informed that despite the series being set during World War II, they weren't allowed to make any overt references to Nazis. This decision caused some of the plans being made by the two writers to be either significantly reworked or scrapped altogether, with Englehart specifically having to scrap an episode he had already written that would have seen the Red Skull transform Stonehenge into a giant swastika. Alongside this mandate, the writers decided to make a shocking change to Captain America's status quo, planning to reveal that Steve Rogers wasn't actually Cap's real name, and instead a code name given to him by the US military, with the character's true name in the show being Tommy Tompkins. The reaction to these changes would never be determined though, as while the show was being developed, several factors outside of the team's control led to the plug being pulled before any episodes could be aired. The main reasons for this show's cancellation was likely due to dwindling interest in the Marvel Animated Universe by the fall of 1998. You see, not only had X-Men the Animated Series concluded by the time that this cartoon entered production, but the likes of Spider-Man, The Incredible Hulk and Fantastic Four had all ended as well, with the only remaining show airing at this time being The Silver Surfer. It's also worth noting that alongside this, Marvel was still facing a considerable amount of financial hardship, having only emerged from bankruptcy earlier that year. Because of this, it's likely that the two companies decided that the level of interest necessary for a show this ambitious to be successful simply wasn't there, with Saban choosing to scrap their plans for a Captain America series and instead bring to life the more low-budget Avengers United They Stand. Although this show would largely centre around characters more commonly associated with the West Coast Avengers, Captain America would make one notable appearance, guest starring in the episode Command Decision, where he confronts Ant-Man over his leadership of the group and teams up with the Avengers to stop Baron Zemo and the Masters of Evil. And with this, the story of Captain America in the Marvel Animated Universe would come to its untimely end, with his final appearance being an underwhelming cameo in a show largely forgotten by the majority of fans, a far cry from the heights of the planned standalone series that found itself lost to history. Despite never making it to air and only getting as far as the early stages of production, I think that this failed Captain America series has an interesting legacy in the history of Marvel's animation, coming at the twilight of the company's once celebrated animated universe, which had enthralled audiences for much of the 1990s. This show's cancellation very much symbolised the end of an era, as Marvel began to phase out this generation of cartoons and began rebuilding for the new millennium. In the years after this series was scrapped, only two more shows that were part of Marvel's animated universe were released, the aforementioned Avengers United They Stand and Spider-Man Unlimited, with both being short-lived and rarely remembered by the majority of fans. Because of this, it's hard to say whether or not a Captain America show would have revitalised interest in the company's animated endeavours, especially given the time in which it was being developed. Had the show been greenlit a few years earlier, around the time that the character first started to appear in other series, it's likely that this show would not only have made it to air, but actually have been successful, emerging around the same time that X-Men and Spider-Man were beginning to come to an end, and being able to carry the torch as Marvel's new flagship show. By the end of 1998 though, audiences had largely moved on from the Marvel animated universe, and given the controversial changes that would have been made to the hero status quo, there was no guarantee that the remaining viewers would have fallen in love with this new iteration of the first Avenger. Instead though, this series never saw the light of day, and in its place, Marvel would instead move on to producing a new slate of animated shows, finding success in the subsequent decade with the likes of X-Men Evolution, Spectacular Spider-Man and Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, the latter of which would feature Captain America as one of the show's main characters. While Cap would continue to make frequent appearances in many of Marvel's other animated shows, the hero would never actually be given the chance to star in his own standalone series, with this short-lived attempt to bring his Golden Age adventures to life being the closest that anyone would ever come. For me personally, I think that had this proposed series made it to air, it likely wouldn't have lived up to its exciting potential. Despite the many talented names involved in trying to bring it to life, the combined forces of the dwindling interest in Marvel's cartoons at this time, and the divisive changes made to Steve Rogers' character would have only served to have made this show controversial and underwhelming. It's no surprise that its replacement series, Avengers United They Stand, failed for many of these exact reasons, and it's hard to imagine a world where, in this context, a Captain America animated series could have been brought to life and found the success that it truly deserved. A show featuring one of Marvel's very first superheroes and a character who had helped carry the company on their back for generations should be one of their greatest successes, especially given all of the other heroes that the company were able to brilliantly bring to life throughout the 1990s. However, the story of this failed animated series is above all else one of a major missed opportunity, and a failure to capture the essence of what exactly makes Captain America one of the most beloved superheroes of all time. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to leave a like on this video and leave a comment down below as well. Let me know your thoughts on everything we talked about in today's video. I can't wait to hear what you have to say as always. If you're new to Owen Likes Comics, please make sure to hit the subscribe button and the notify bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. And if you enjoyed this video and you want some more, there should be some others on screen right now that you might also enjoy. If you'd like to to help support the channel and help me make more videos, you can do so over at patreon.com/OwenLikesComics. Or if you just want some more of me, you can follow me on Twitter just at OwenLikesComics. But that's all for this video though. Again, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it and hopefully I'll see you next time. But until then, take care and keep reading.